Good morning. This is Wormy behind the camera again. This is my dog, Unshante. I think she's eating grass. And it's the day before the full moon. About a week after Ostara, still a few days before Easter. This is my yard, and by mandate my front yard has to look nice and tidy, but I tend to engage in the practice of benevolent neglect for my backyard. So the weeds just enjoy themselves back here, and that works for me. I have a lot of nettle, types of clover, lots and lots of mallow, and a variety of other things I have yet to identify. I suppose some of them are edible, but I've never tried because I've always had animals. So you tend not to eat with a go bathroom, but that's okay. Anyway, but I do have things like a pomegranate tree. Actually, I have two of them. There's one on that side as well, and those are in flower. And then by Samhain, I get fruit, which is a nice addition to my altar. So yeah, this season seems to be very much about small animals for me, and nurturing the young. And nurturing young things can include ideas, concepts, projects, which I've often done for the spring season anyway. And the full moon, especially this time of the year, just tends to really remind me of a small round egg. And I was thinking about the young, and for instance, a video done by Kellyanne at the Four Queens, and she talked about imparting one's values, specifically pagan values, on one's offspring. And how she probably wouldn't do that for reasons XYZ, and I'll link that video in the undercarriage because she did a nice job of explaining things. And I was reminded, because I'd recently watched a National Geographic video on the honey badger, and I don't mean Randall's remix of the honey badger, I mean the actual 45-minute clip. And honey badger is not, it's not a warm and fuzzy parent figure. But then again, badgers aren't exactly warm and fuzzy to begin with. There's something to be said about being ferocious in an environment like an African desert. But she does care about her pups. She carries it around everywhere. She provides enough food for the insatiable badger appetite for two badgers, assuming there's only one cub. She even continues her ministrations long after the pup is essentially fatally injured. And there was one scene that struck me as interesting, and that was where honey badger takes her pup, when it's old enough, to a local, nearby beehive. There you are. She's watching like the plethora of bugs that are kind of drifting about my lawn. So she takes her pup to this tree where there are bees, and honey badger mama climbs into the tree and is digging around for honey, and there are thousands of stings going on, and she's just she wants her reward, despite all the difficulty and possible danger. and she's essentially teaching Honey Badger Pup how to get her honey, if Honey Badger Pup wants to, and what it entails. And Honey Badger's observing this. Eventually the pup books it out of there because the bees just become far too aggressive, and the mother follows. But in the difficult desert region of Africa, you have a parent who's teaching an animal value to her offspring, and the sweet reward of honey and larvae, despite the possible dangers and complications involved with that. So the story of Honey Badger is teaching us about imparting what we think is important to our children. And I know a lot of people in the pagan community gave up on religions that they may have been raised in because either they found them spiritually incomplete or stifling. And that makes a lot of sense, that you wouldn't necessarily want to impart those negative side effects on your kids. But I'd say we practice our religion because we find a lot of comfort and we find a lot of beauty in it. And I think sometimes we don't think we're able to impart that aspect to our children. And kids are smart and observant, and they want to please, and I think they would, just by following our example, would find a lot of joy in it. I was recently reading material from the Green Egg, which Green Egg is great reading material for this time of the year, and it's an anthology of articles from the Green Egg magazine, because this is the book. And one of the stories is an article by Elizabeth Bartlett, and she's clearly in support of raising your kids pagan. She thinks that pagan parents are particularly qualified at providing their offspring with the resources that they need to grow up happy, essentially. For instance, pagan parents are better equipped at talking about such quote-unquote difficult topics like sex and death, and a reverence for nature and other cultures, and being able to teach by example when using mythology. Another article in here is by Aurora River, and she was raised by pagan parents in the 70s, like old-time hippies. And while she got kind of burned out with the festivals, in large part because people are people and there's always politics and drama involved with it. But she says she would raise her kids pagan because she still finds a great deal of satisfaction in that. So it's definitely possible. And there's a lot of other pagan authors who have written a whole book specifically on the subject. For instance, this one's popular, Ogaia's The Family Wicca book. So it's hard to impart an experience onto other people, and the beauty of nature. But I think most children want to feel that anyway. They're naturally inclined toward that, and a subject like magic is probably easier to teach children than it is to adults, because magic uses symbolism that speaks to the inner child in all of us. So actually those kids who are exposed to it earlier probably have an easier time. Now naturally, you want to keep things as age appropriate as possible. If, for instance, you or your spouse or your group regularly incorporates elements like possession or blood sacrifice, hallucinogenics, and sex magic, then you may need to wait until your children are older and more mature before you introduce them to those topics. Because even a lot of adults are super squeamish about the subject matter, so, but those have their time and place, and are important, and speak to levels of us that's difficult for adult rationality to connect with. So it's probably a good time of the season to consider what you think about your own spiritual practice that you would like to impart on your offspring, and you can make that into a mental exercise, even if you don't have children. Pretend you do, and think aloud what elements of your practice are important to you, as if you were explaining it to somebody small, a small version of yourself. And when you say, I like the beauty of such and such, or I enjoy doing such and such, or I find this to be important, immediately ask yourself why, just like a child would ask why, and answer that question, and then follow it up with another why, and keep doing that until you get to the root of it, and then you'll know where the real value behind that value is. So I think that's going to be the core of my exercise tonight during the full moon. So anyway, I wish you all an excellent spring season and a shiny full moon, and the blessings of Honey Badger, because despite Randall's remix, Honey Badger does care. So, alright, you all have a good day. Take care.